All right, we'll call to order the recessed agenda of the town of Manteo, which normally is referred to as a workshop. We'll take reports. Up to you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 2 on the agenda, reports. These are for information. Item number 2A, this is new employee introduction. And I will have our new employees stand up, but I'd like to make a quick introduction here. Following a rigorous and fair recruitment process, I am pleased to report that Michelle Bunce just started work today as our new program manager. She will be working on 3 interrelated programs: the Downtown Associate Community Program, Special Events, and the Communications and Public Information Program. Ms. Bunce earned her undergraduate degree from East Carolina University with a major in anthropology and a minor in Spanish. She has over 20 years of experience, including work in the private sector, local government, and state government. Her work in local government includes 3+ years as a planner for Onslow County, and she has worked for the state for over the last 17+ years, including roles managing special events at the North Carolina Aquarium and managing facility rentals and events at Jeanette's Pier. You may have seen Michelle's picture in the newspaper recently, in which she won an award for wedding events, and she has won other awards, including but not limited to the Award of Excellence at the North Carolina Aquarium and Jeanette's Pier, Certificate of Appreciation from the Roanoke Island Historical Association, Golden Key, and more. Ms. Bunce is a long-standing member of the International Special Events Society, and she serves 7 years as an ambassador for the Outer Banks Chamber of Commerce. As a local resident, Michelle serves her community in a variety of nonprofit roles with a special emphasis on youth-oriented activities. Please join me in welcoming Michelle Bunce to the town of Manteo.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Michelle, we talked today, but glad you're aboard and you got your work cut out for you. And you talk so fast, Mr. Manager, I couldn't hardly understand. What county did you say she was planner for?
Onslow County.
Onslow, I know Onslow.
All right. Next up on the agenda, item 2B. These are the department head reports, in which it's an opportunity for our folks in the different departments to show the community what's going on behind the scenes here at the town of Manteo. So we'll go ahead and start with the presentation.
Good evening, Josh O'Brien, Water and Sewer Department. As always, I like to start with the first slide of a bunch of numbers that break down operation, maintenance, inspections, and billing. Besides routine expected work assignments, staff continued manhole inspections, also the project of the meteor radio transmitter maintenance. This next slide shows a breakdown of our sewer system maintenance for the month of January, including the routine cleaning of 2 wet wells at Cypress Cove and Wingina lift stations. Pump number 1 that was damaged in Hurricane Dorian was installed at Waterfront after being rebuilt. At the wastewater treatment plant, which the pictures on the slide show, maintenance included, well, slide doesn't show this, but also included the replacement of 2 failed bearings, preventive maintenance work, and the replacement of the Headworks microscreen. The slide shows our sludge holding lagoon. We recently completed our sludge hauling at the plant for the period of July 19 through January 2020. 260,000 gallons of sludge was removed. And what you're seeing here is the sludge holding lagoon. This tank can hold up to 330,000 gallons of sludge. And if you can see inside the tank, we have staff that are cleaning the tank. At the very bottom, right here shows a hose, another hose that pumps into pump trucks that we then contract to haul away. To make it to this stage, this is all treated sludge that makes it to the final process before hauling, which goes through a digestion process which reduces the organic content in the sludge. It also thickens the solids by dewatering and batches over time. We then apply liquid lime to stabilize it, then producing a material that can be applied via the contractor's site. So you can see once it gets down a couple inches, we get in there. It's a confined space. We follow confined space rules and push it into the hoses and clean it up. It's a dirty job. Next slide. For the month of January, water system maintenance included replacing some pipe insulation under the Cormay Bass Knife Bridge from past repairs due to freezing from a couple years ago. This slide shows a hydrant replacement that was at the intersection of Ananias Dare Street and Lord Essex. This hydrant, as you can see in the middle picture here, was the oldest hydrant in our system. This hydrant's actually from 1940. So Commissioner Burke is shaking his head. But as you can see, this old unit, they don't make them like this anymore. It lasted 80 years. It's a single piece. There's no flanges, as you can see on these new hydrants. They make them now, so if a car hits them, they break, water doesn't shoot up. But there's no flanges, and there was no flange on the bottom here. It was actually soldered in place. Yeah, soldered in place. So staff did a phenomenal job working with infrastructure from the 40s and installing new equipment from our current time, which will help with flushing, would help with fire protection. So it was a job well done. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Good afternoon. Carl Jordan, Manteo Waterfront Marina. One of the things I'd like to report is that Hampton Yacht Club, one of our biggest clubs that frequents us seasonally, they're coming in on 2 dates this July. So we've got a great start on July the 4th. They're coming in on June the 25th for one night, and then all 15 boats are going to Ocracoke and then returning on the 3rd of July and staying for 2 more nights. So that fills up the marina basically before we get started. So if any of these would happen to back out, we'll just, we'd have a good chance to move some new ones in and around, but we'll get everybody in there because we've got tricks that we can get them on the sides and everywhere, so we don't have to turn everybody away. As you can see right here on this picture, we just set up a daily manual. This keeps tracks of boats that have arrived at anchor, as well as boats that have arrived on the free 24-hour docks. What we'll try to do is make contact with these boats as soon as possible and explain our docking and mooring policies so that we'll have everything straight as soon as they arrive. This other pictures are automatic external defibrillator that I'm going to go through it again with Kevin, our fire marshal, and Barry has ordered all the parts already to updated. It's got about 5 years on it. It still shows plenty of power now, but we just thought we ought to redo it just to make sure everything's fresh and ready to go, and hoping I don't ever have to use it. We have we've got a 41-foot sailboat returned to the waterfront, signing another yearly contract. And I just got a call the other day from a lady that's coming in on a 27-foot boat, and she wants a permanent spot also. So that'll be 2 added to the annual list, so that's always good. And that's all I have.
Hey, does the fire marshal train you on the defibrillator? On the defibrillator?
I've been trained on it before, but I hadn't of course I hadn't used it yet, but I want to go through it again because it's been so long. When you open that box, it lights up and tells you everything to do, but I still like to see it done, so I won't panic myself when it's time to use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Good afternoon, I'm Barry Wicker, the Roanoke Island Maritime Museum. This time of year, we're pretty much in our fix-up mode. We're still going through all of our power boats and all of our sailboats, getting them refurbished for the summer season. Our shad boat will be going to Beaufort in March, this coming month. We still have a really good relationship with the Maritime Museum down there, and they have a full-time boat right there, so they'll be replacing our centerboard trunk on the shad boat. The shad boat's getting into its 20th year now since we built that. Our sailing program's getting to a good start. We've got 12 kids signed up already. We've got kids from Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New York. All 3 of those parents were calling to make sure we had space in our program before they actually made their housing reservations for the summer. So that's kind of, these are people coming to town, not specifically, they're coming here specifically for vacation and making sure we have space in our classes for that. So that's kind of a cool, neat thing happening too. So that's basically all I have right now. Any questions?
Thank you,
Thanks.
Barry.
Mayor, board members, ladies and gentlemen, this evening I wanted to do a presentation on the total number of receipts for 2019. The total number of payments received were 11,435. Of those, 8,198 were checks totaling 72% of our total transactions. 1,748 were cash totaling 15% of transactions, which meant we had interaction at the desk. Third-party online checks were 508, totaling 5% of our transactions. Third-party online Visa MasterCards totaled 909, which were 8% of our transactions. Our third-party vendor online bill pay is still growing in popularity, as well as the number of customers using our night Dropbox. This option appeals to a wide variety of consumers and customer groups. The number of requests for auto drafting has continued to increase. When this service becomes available, it will provide another level of customer service, as your finance department continues to provide the highest level of customer service possible. The finance department is also researching third-party vendors that will provide auto drafting service options. Thus far, we have begun to research payments with Secure Network and Payment US upon the recommendation from other finance directors in the area. As 15% of all transactions are cash in person, and 13% of those transactions are taking place with our third-party vendor online, we are continuing to work with PNC, which is our current banking service provider, but we have gone back and forth and are still, I hate to say negotiation phase, contract review, and agreement phases. So we will continue to research options that will provide a higher level of customer service. And any of you as the board, you will be continuing to receiving your budget versus actuals as you begin your budget planning process, which February 28th is our first workshop together for next year's budget, and I'm looking forward to it. But if you have any special projects, data, research, please let me know, and I will provide it to you as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Good evening, Chief Haskett, Manteo Police Department. I attended a emergency management meeting, referenced FirstNet. It was mainly to discuss the outage that we had for a while with the town, mainly discussing what they were going to do to make sure that that doesn't happen again. I believe we were down for about 3 days, somewhere along in that area. Officer Land, Curry, and Rhodes attended LIDAR training at the Nags Head Police Department, and Investigator Steele attended DCI training. We had 11 investigations in January. 6 we have closed, 5 are still open. Up here you'll see we're swearing in one of our newest officers, Billy Deaton. He came from us from Kitty Hawk Police Department. He was there for about 9 years. And that's about all I have. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Chief.
Frankie Willie, Public Works. For the month of January, we removed all the decorations from along 64 and the adjacent side streets and the Christmas tree. And we also helped the Maritime Museum adjust the weather station above the museum. And we cleaned out a ditch in Rodent Village that runs from West Street to George Howe Street. And we removed shrubs from behind the condos, which we raked and reseeded with. And we replaced the steps in all the entrances to the pavilion downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie.
Carl Woody, the Technology Department. We continue to work on the redesign status. We are working with the contractor on some formatting issues. We just want it to look good when it goes. So there's some formatting issues that we have to worry about with the provider and getting it all squared away. They did import the content to it. Again, there was some spacing issues. So we got some QA to do on these websites to make sure that everything looks good and is organized. The data center migration, I talked briefly about this. We're moving all of our servers and so forth over into the Emergency Operations Center. The VPN's been set up. We're hoping in the next couple of weeks to start moving equipment in there and getting that connection over in the Emergency Operations Center before hurricane season. The last is the budget visual dashboard. This is an example of the general fund budget versus actual. I'm working on with the finance so that it's an interactive dashboard so users can click and get more information of, okay, where's the money being spent? And it's just more transparency and assistant for you guys to see where the money's going. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Carl. You never cease to amaze me with your changes.
Thanks.
You're what Manteo's needed for a long time.
Thanks.
I think so. Hello, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Melissa Dickerson, your town planner. Today I'm going to talk to you again about flood maps and the flood damage prevention ordinance and the adoption process. But first I want to review with everyone what a flood map is. FEMA partners with states, tribes, and communities through the risk mapping, assessment, and planning program to identify flood hazards, assess flood risks, and provide guidance to stakeholders in taking effective mitigation actions that result in safer, more resilient communities. The data is incorporated into flood maps, known as flood insurance rate maps, or FIRMs, that support the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, and provide the basis for community floodplain management regulations and flood insurance requirements. Through the Risk Map program, flood maps are developed using the best available science when analyzed by engineering firms. The mapping standards are published, vetted, peer-reviewed, and updated continuously to ensure that they are aligned with current best practices. And so, of course, this year, we are going to see one of those updates. And so the town began participating in the National Flood Insurance Program in 1977. The town also participates in the Community Rating System, which is part of the National Flood Insurance Program. The Community Rating System is a voluntary incentive program that recognizes and encourages communities or community floodplain management activities that exceed the minimum flood insurance program requirements. As a result, flood insurance premium rates are discounted to reflect the reduced flood risk resulting from the community's actions, meeting the 3 goals of the community rating system. The first goal is to reduce flood damage to insurable property. The second goal is to strengthen and support the insurance aspects of the National Flood Insurance Program. And the third is to encourage a comprehensive approach to floodplain management. The town's current community rating system score is a 7, which provides a discount on flood insurance rates of 15%. This year, we will, along with adopting our maps and flood damage prevention ordinance, we will be participating in a community assistance visit. This is when FEMA comes in and they basically grade our activities. And so my goal is this year to achieve a score of a 6, which will in turn be a 20% discount on flood insurance rates. Before, we have not been able to lower our score because of other things, but this year we have the opportunity, and so we're going to work towards that. So this year, or actually, here are some important dates to note. So our current maps that we use were adopted in 2006.
The preliminary maps, which are the new flood maps, they were released on June 30th of 2016. And so that's why y'all have been hearing us talk about these for so long, is because we actually received the maps for review in 2016, but we did not get the letter of final determination until this most previous December. So it took about 3 years for us to get that letter of final determination. And the letter is what starts the clock ticking for adoption for the new flood maps and the flood damage prevention ordinance. And so our effective maps, our new maps, and the flood damage prevention ordinance will be effective on June the 19th of this year. And so you all will be reviewing these things, and here are the required actions this year. So our ordinance requires that our ordinance revisions be reviewed by the planning board. And then, of course, statute requires public hearings as part of the process. We've also, through the other planners in the county, been holding meetings with interest groups. We'll be meeting with the home builders on the 27th. So next week we'll be meeting with the Home Builders Association. And then the following week of March the 2nd, I'll be holding some drop-in sessions. So if folks have questions about the impacts to their properties, they can come in and meet with me. And so we have outreach activities to stress the importance of flood insurance. We have a message going out on the water bills, of course, stakeholder meetings with the other municipalities and the counties, and then drop-in sessions. So again, you've seen these before. This is the current map. The blue indicates what is a special flood hazard area. Most of what we have in the town currently is an AE zone, which is a special flood hazard area with a base elevation of 8 feet. And then here's the new maps. And so the yellow and the, I guess, clear layers are X and shaded X zones. So what is blue here and then becomes clear or yellow, those are the properties that are being removed from the special flood hazard areas. So we are losing a significant amount of our coverage currently. Our properties are being removed from the special flood hazard area. And so this visual helps me a lot. So this is downtown, this is Festival Park, and you can see kind of the layer here. Like even George Washington Creek Park moves into an X zone, and we all know what frequent flooding, we had flooding there a week ago. So the impact of the maps. The revised maps, when adopted, will be used for flood insurance rating purposes, and policies renewed or inactive after June 19th, 2020 will be based on the new maps. There is a potential for decreased flood insurance rates. And one thing that is really important, and we are going to be messaging this a lot, especially in my one-on-one meetings and any opportunity that I get, is talking to property owners about keeping their flood insurance coverage even if they're moving into an X zone. But property owners should be talking to their insurance agents about the best possible rate for their property when the new maps are adopted. And so I've been working on the ordinance. It's 41 pages. It has been reviewed by Wyatt Booth for comment, which is a process that we have with the town. So I have some recommendations because of us losing all of the special flood hazard area that we are. So in the AE zones that will remain, which is not much, increasing the freeboard to 3 feet above base flood or to the local elevation standard, which I will explain in a minute. Shaded X zones or X zones to create this local elevation standard. This is exactly what the county and the other municipalities are doing. We're adopting this local elevation standard, and our current target is 8 feet, so that if you're building a home in an X zone or a shaded X zone, your floor is, the bottom of your first floor is still at 8 feet, which is where most floors now are in town, any new construction. So this is a higher regulatory standard. We're not quite sure how it'll impact our score with CRS, but we have felt like taking this extra step is necessary in order to protect the new construction that's happening, because there are X zones where we know it floods. And then it requires that the first floor of the living area be elevated at or above 8 feet, as if the property was located in an AE zone. So the local elevation standard is a regulatory flood elevation measured, like I said, at the bottom of the lowest floor. Utilities must be elevated above the regulatory flood elevation, so someone doesn't have their heat pump lower than that same level. Flood vents would be required below, anything below that would require flood vents below that level. We will require elevation certificates, even in X zones. Lateral additions, so if there's an existing structure, we will allow lateral additions to be at the same base flood elevation as well. And then remodeling can be done. So existing structures wouldn't necessarily be impacted. And then the other suggested changes that I have in the ordinance is a non-conversion agreement that would be filed at the Dare County Register of Deeds to be on that property's record. And what that means is that when we write a certificate of occupancy, we would have a new form that goes with it that gets recorded that means that any enclosures below that level, it could not be converted into conditioned space unless that local elevation standard is of 8 feet. So if your ground is at 8 feet and you still put your house on pylons, you could possibly enclose that space, but anything below that 8 feet would not be able to be converted. And this, again, is one of those higher regulatory standards. It would score us some community rating system points to help with our grade, but that is going to be one of the larger policy decisions that you all will consider with this new ordinance. And so here's the schedule. The planning board last week got the draft ordinance, and they scheduled the public hearing for March 10th. I mentioned that I'll be hosting some drop-in sessions at Town Hall the first week of March. And then the planning board, hopefully they will make recommendations to you all after their public hearing, and you all will consider scheduling your public hearing for May the 6th, and you could take possible action on May the 6th at the close of your public hearing, or there are 2 additional dates, June 3rd and actually, June 3rd, and then whatever your workshop and June date is. So we have some wiggle room in case we hit any hiccups, but the planning board will be taking their first look at it at March 10th. Along with having an attorney for the town review the ordinance, which has been done. Currently, the ordinance is with the state for comment, and so they have like 3 levels of review. We've made it through 1, and we've got 2 more reviewers. So I don't actually have the state's input yet. I hope that we'll have it by the end of the week, but hopefully it'll be here soon. We're waiting on the state right now. But do you all have any questions? It's a lot of information. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks so much to the members of staff. It's feels so strongly that it's important to have the board and the members of the community have an opportunity to see, to have that peek behind the scenes, if you will. I know it's customary to allow staff to head out at this point, although, of course, staff members are welcome if they'd like to hear the upcoming presentation, public comments, and mayor and commissioner comments. But thanks so much for taking this time to inform the community. Next up on the agenda, item 3. This is a presentation. This is for information. This is the Outer Banks Mountain Bike Trails, and the presenter is Mr. Jesse Davis.
Hello, my name is Jesse Davis. I live here in Manteo, and I am quickly here to talk about mountain bike trails and to advocate for their building somewhere on the island. But before I say anything else, I'm going to play a short video just so everybody knows exactly what the heck I'm talking about. And it's quick.
The bicycle, possibly one of mankind's greatest inventions. We've all ridden a bike at one time or another. Some more enthusiastically than others. Fresh air, sunshine, exercising while setting down, what's not to love? Oh right, the cars. Luckily, almost 50 years ago, somebody decided to leave the traffic behind and head straight for the dirt. And the mountain bike was born. Pretty soon, they figured out that these things would go just about anywhere. And just like that, the world had a new way to ride a bicycle. Nowadays, the mountain bike is a wonder of science. Space-age materials and motorcycle technology have combined to form a practically indestructible, go-anywhere, human-powered machine. This kid is not playing a video game. No virtual reality here. Actual reality. With dirt. But you need a place to ride. Almost any trail will do. Nice and curvy to use the available area. No mountains necessary. You'll live right up and over the bumps in the woods. Or you can build your own bumps. Mountain bike trails are limited only by the builder's imagination. Doesn't this look fun? Sort of like skiing. Whoa, watch it now. Mountain bike trails can be built anywhere. Even in your backyard. Want a big berm curve? Build it. Then ride your bike on it. It doesn't take a lot of money or fancy equipment. Just a place to build and a plan. Roanoke Island doesn't have a whole lot of extra room, but it does have a few nooks and crannies. Places like the woods around the boat launch parking lot. The woods behind the sewage treatment plant. The empty woods down Bowsertown Road. And probably the best spot, the old landfill behind the new water tower. Home to one of the biggest hills on the island. Of course, a place to park would be nice. And bathrooms would be a bonus. An ambitious Boy Scout could even earn his Eagle Scout badge developing signage for the trail system. Using this website, we can take a quick look around the eastern half of our state. Here we see examples of other communities that have developed areas designated for off-road bicycling. So let's build some mountain bike trails on Roanoke Island. For relatively little money, we could add an amenity to our town that would be an attraction for outdoor enthusiasts nationwide, while at the same time benefiting local kids and adults, as well as any business that caters to visitors and residents. A patch of woods here, an otherwise forgotten piece of land there, could be converted, even temporarily, into an enjoyable rustic public space that would foster good health and put us on the map with yet another great reason to come to Manteo.
That's that. So, like I said, I'm here to talk about mountain bike trails and advocating for them. And I think now we know, everybody knows what a mountain bike is. It's a big tire bicycle that's intended to ride off-road on the dirt. Mountain bike trails don't really go anywhere. They don't take you across town, or they don't take you from one end of the island to the other. They tend to go around in circles in a small area, and they're strictly there for fun and for exercise. I travel a lot, and I have an app on my phone which tells me where all the mountain bike trails are. So if I'm in Florida or if I'm in Maryland or Virginia, I can look on my phone and I can find out where the nearest trail is, and I can go check it out, for research purposes. And while I'm there, well, usually it's in a park, with a playground and a ball field and a soccer field. And in the woods around the park, usually out of view, they've got, 2 or 4 or 8 miles of trail doubling back on itself back there. And I'll usually try to engage somebody while I'm there, either out on the trail or in the parking lot, and kind of talk to them and figure out, what the story is, how they got trails there. And every place has its own story. I was in Sand Lee Park, which is in Lee County, near Sanford, south of Raleigh recently. It's not a big park, but it has a campground, and I was going to camp there and meet some friends to ride. And the guy getting me set up in that campground had been running that park for 30 years. And I asked him, I said, how did mountain bike trails come to Sand Lee Park? And he said, about 20 years ago, a fellow thought it'd be a good idea. So he pitched it to the county, and the county voted on it, and the county approved it. So we started building mountain bike trails, and we've been adding on ever since. This guy didn't really strike me as a mountain biker, but he was really proud of the trails that he'd helped build for the past 2 decades. And the next day, there were 50 people in the parking lot there to ride the trails. Also talking to these people, these places, I found out that the trails usually get built in like one of 3 ways. Sometimes they'll just let the enthusiasts build the trails. They'll just give them a piece of land or a piece of woods and tell them to go nuts. Sometimes they'll do that and they'll give them some resources. They'll give them a crew maybe if something needs to be done, like a little footbridge, or maintenance needs to happen after a storm or something. They'll have a little bit of resources as far as that's concerned. Third way is they'll just hire a mountain bike building company to come in and build trails for them, sort of like hiring a skate park builder to come in. The other thing that inevitably comes up, these people want to know where I'm from, and I say, well, I'm from the Outer Banks, I live in Manteo. And people always say, oh, we love it there. We come twice a year. Where can we ride our mountain bikes? And I have to tell them, I say, well, nowhere. But I'm working on it. Maybe next year we'll get something going, which is why I'm here, and that's pretty much the end of my presentation. And if you have any questions, I can answer them now, or on the sheet there, you've got my contact information, and you can email me or give me a call if you think of something later.
Jesse, which one did you say was would be the best that The landfill site?
I think the landfill site is, which I realize is not Manteo property, is Dare County property. And anything that's indicated on that sheet or indicated in this video is strictly for conceptual purposes, you know. Those would make, you know, a quick view of the Dare County tax map online indicates that, you know, Manteo doesn't have a lot of little pieces of land here and there, so there's not a lot. But it really doesn't take much, and that's kind of the thing I'm trying to drive home, is you really don't need a lot. You know, you're not really improving the infrastructure, transportation infrastructure of the island. You're basically just building a little place to go, like, exercise and have fun or whatever. But, you know, it doesn't take much.
I think it'd make a good project for Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts.
The part I put in there about signage being Eagle Scout project is because I see that a lot. Because, you know, when a kid does, there's usually a plaque that says, you know, signage provided by such and such for their thing. That's actually very common for people to come in and do that. And it's a draw. I mean, people, you know, visitors would, you know, look on their app, you know, and say, oh, what trails in Manteo? And they'd come over and get coffee and lunch, and I don't know.
Is there any other questions for Mr. Davis? Thank you, sir, so much.
Wait, you have a question?
No, he can't talk in the audience.
Okay, fair enough.
Talk to him after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting me take up space.
Thank you. Very interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next up, item number 4, public comments. This is for information. Members of the public are invited to address the Board of Commissioners on any topic. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions or to take any action on items brought up during the public comment period. Speakers will address all comments to the board as a whole and not one individual commissioner. Discussions between speakers and members of the audience will not be allowed. Please come forward to the podium and identify yourself so that your statements can be recorded. 3 minutes per person or 5 minutes per group.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Sawin. I'm the Executive Director of the Dare County Arts Council, and I wanted just to read a short prepared statement. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I'm here to personally invite each of you to the groundbreaking ceremony for the Courtyard Project at the historic Dare County Courthouse in downtown Manteo. The ceremony will take place at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, March 3rd. The Courtyard Project will transform the yard behind the 1904 courthouse building into a multifunctional courtyard that will enable Dare County Arts Council to expand its programming, serve additional segments of our community, and showcase a broader range of creative endeavors, including outdoor artwork, workshops, and artist demonstrations. The new courtyard, which was designed by Ben Cahoon of Cahoon and Caston Architects, will feature innovative and versatile concepts, including a pergola for shade and also for displaying artwork, permanent seating, infrastructure for natural and kinetic works, improved lighting, and an accessible ramp to the Dare County Arts Council's gallery. As the town of Manteo embarks on the Town Commons project and celebrates its selection by the North Carolina Main Street and Rural Planning Center for inclusion in the Downtown Association Community Program, we are proud to launch this initiative to improve one of Manteo's most iconic buildings. Once completed, the courtyard will offer our community an art space on par with other great cultural facilities in the state of North Carolina. Our hope is that Dare County Arts Council will continue to be an important cultural hub in the heart of beautiful downtown Manteo. Immediately following the groundbreaking ceremony, there will be a reception and an open house inside Dare County Arts Council where members of the community can learn more about the project and enjoy light refreshments. The ceremony and the reception are free and open to the public. Dare County Arts Council's courtyard is expected to open in the fall of 2020. I'll keep you informed regularly of the progress of the project and an eventual date for a grand opening celebration. Again, thank you for allowing me to address you today, and I hope to see you all on March 3rd.
Thank you, Chris.
Hi, my name is Brian Brockway. I live here in Manteo. I also own the Manteo Cyclery, which is a bike shop, technically in the county, but within the Manteo area. I'd like to say that I do see a lot of faces of people who live in Manteo, who own bikes and ride bikes, and I think there is an interest in something, there are interests in more infrastructure bike paths, which is something that a different group is working on, but I think there's a lot of entertainment value in something like a mountain bike park. And like I said, I see a lot of faces of people riding bikes, and I think there's plenty of people on the island. And also, just to say that this is not a totally abstract idea, because there is a bike shop on Roanoke Island. So there are people, it is to me, it's like a sensible thing to do. That's all I like to say.
Thank you so much.
I'm Chris Roberts. My wife and I have coastal counseling here in Manteo, and I'm also an avid cyclist as well. And I just had found about this presentation earlier in the week, and I would just really strongly support it, because as a counselor, we deal with teenagers. They have very little to do, All the parents that I deal with, what do the kids do? They play video games. They don't leave their bedrooms. And I see this as a great opportunity to try and get kids out of their rooms, and not in our downtown streets, but in a controlled environment where they can go off, have fun. And, like he said, I have that app on my phone. If I want to go mountain biking, there's a path in Greenville. It's not really that close for me to be able to go do any mountain biking. And that's not for just young kids, it's for old guys like me that want to try and keep in shape. You get in the best shape of your life doing some mountain biking and things. And I just would really strongly support trying to get something around here for our kids to do. And I think that's my point. So.
Thank you, Chris. Would anyone else like to be heard? Ask one more time. Would anybody else like to be heard? All right, we'll now close the public comment period.
Next up on the agenda, this is item number 5, Mayor and Commissioners' comments. This is for information.
I don't have any comments tonight. Betty?
I don't have anything on the department heads for the presentations.
Christine?
No, sir.
Can we add at our workshop, at our retreat, a conversation on the mountain bike trails? Okay.
Yeah, well, you're commissioner. You can bring up anything you want to.
That's all I got.
Yeah. You put it on there?
Are you on?
Jason?
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, so I think it's the start to good idea. Yeah, so we'll see see if we can make anything of it.
Eddie?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the mayor and other board members. A year and a half ago, we were non-existent on television. Now, with our planning board meeting along with the town meetings and our workshop meetings, we're now the most televised town in Dare County. So thank you all for making that happen. And now we're the most accessible town on television, so I think that's great leaps and bounds to make in a year and a half. And there's another thing I was thinking about that I think we can all get behind, is to make Manteo accessible to veterans. I've seen other towns create veteran parking in their town government parking lots and then at town parks around. I think we have about 8 parking areas with 8 or 10 spaces that we could add at least 1 parking space to for veterans, and maybe 2 or 3 at our new town commons. But I think it'd be good just to pay back anything we can to those people that have done so much for us. That's all I have.
Excellent idea. Richie?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Manager, no comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 6 on the agenda, this is closed session. In order to enter closed session, a motion would need to be made, seconded, and voted on in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143.318.11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, condition of appointment of a public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee.
All right, we now have a need to go in closed session. We'll need a motion to go in closed session.
A motion to go in closed session.
Motion by Darrell, we'll go in closed session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Christine? Was
Yes,
it?
sir.
Yeah, second by Christine. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor of going in closed session? Say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We'll now declare ourselves in closed session. Let me say this to the audience. Some of you that haven't been here before, we usually believe you can go in the ante room. So if you want to sit and wait till we come back out, you're certainly welcome to, and we welcome you to do it, but we don't ever know how long closed session is going to last. So I just want you to know that for your convenience. We'll come out, we'll just have discussion, and no action will be taken ever. If there's action to be decided on, it'll be come back out here and voted on in public. So just so the audience will know. Okay, we're now in closed session. All right, we've declared ourselves out of closed session. We got to go back in open session, but.
Make a motion to enter open session.
Second?
Second.
All right, motion by Eddie, second by Richie. We come out of closed session, and now declare ourselves in open session. We went into closed session and discussed personnel matters and the evaluation of the time manager, and that concluded our business. And any comments from any commissioners? We have a motion we recess this time because we've got to have a workshop.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. The recess would be until the February 28th budget planning retreat.
Did I see where y'all changed the time?
And the time
It was
would be
8:30.
Yes, 8:30 would be where folks can gather to get coffee or something to eat or drink.
We're now recessed till February the 21st.
28th.
28th at 8:30 in the morning. Motion adjourned.
So moved.
I lost my train of thought.
There you go.
Great.
I might see about this.